I saw a YouTube video on my homepage today that sparked my curiosity. It just simply says, Nintendo just made games illegal. But which games? Let's check it out. Now, the video that we're going to be watching today is on a channel called Veteran Joystick. So if you do like this video that we're watching, then go and subscribe to them, watch some of their videos, you know, give them the love they deserve for making these videos. Right, okay, I'm going to get my earphones in and we're going to see exactly why Nintendo just made games illegal. Which ones?
Nintendo used to protect Mario's mustache. Now they want to own the concept of pressing a button. In the last 2 weeks,
Nintendo has a US patent on summoning characters and making them battle for you. The new patent theoretically covers an action that is present in numerous non-Nintendo games.
They've secured patents on summoning allies and switching between mounts. Mechanics that exist in everything from Elden Ring to bloody World of Warcraft, and have done for years. This isn't about protecting innovation anymore. This is declaring war on it. And to me, this is everything wrong with modern gaming. Corporate greed wrapped up in a Pikachu cosplay. So what madness have Nintendo been up to?
Okay.
Well, they've just had 2 patents granted. The first one covers summoning a companion that automatically fights enemies on your behalf. You press a button, an ally appears, it battles anything hostile nearby. And the second patent, mounts. Literally jumping on or off a ground or flying mount. A fundamental mechanic that's existed in every game that has a horse for literally the last 30 years. If you've played Elden Ring, you've used a summon. Spirit Ashes work exactly like this. Summon the Mimic Tier, it fights whatever's trying to kill you, and of course From Software didn't invent this either. It's been a staple of games since the 90s. The scariest part...
You used to summon games in summon things in Final Fantasy. You mount horses in Red Dead Redemption. What is going on?
Part of it all is Nintendo doesn't even need to win these patent fights. The threat alone does the work. Uncertainty kills the innovation faster than any court ruling ever could. When a small studio's prototyping companion systems, they're not thinking, will this be fun? They're thinking, will this bankrupt us? Will we be taken to court? Can we afford a legal battle? That's how you suffocate creativity, making experimentation feel like Russian roulette. What Nintendo's done here is move...
How can you patent an action within a video game? That's like saying, do you know what? We made the first film with a car chase. No more films can have car chases in them. What is this about? This is ridiculous.
Beyond protecting characters to owning fundamental mechanics, the building blocks of how games work, and they filed these patents right after a tiny survival game with creature companions became the biggest thing in gaming. Coincidence? Of course it's not. Pocket Pair, a tiny indie studio, shipped a survival game with creature companions. I don't need to explain it, everyone knows Power World. It hit over 2.1 million
I don't even know this game
on Steam alone, and it sold 15 million copies in its first year. Overnight, it became real competition for Nintendo. Now look, there's no denying that Power World draws inspiration from Pokemon. Nobody's arguing that. But what Pocket Pair did was innovate on what Nintendo refused to for the last 20 years. Added survival mechanics, base building, weapons, actual challenge, and the sales numbers...
Well, if Nintendo was slow on the uptake with this type of extras that they put in the game, that is on them. That's on them. I mean, you can't turn around and say just because you've got an animal in a game that's fighting alongside you that you were patenting it. You know, we've got like Final Fantasy where you have Aeons and Guardians fighting alongside you and stuff. Still technically animals. Do you know what I mean? But this is fucking stupid, this.
A proof there was a massive demand for this that Nintendo just ignored and still do to this day. But instead of competing by making better games, Nintendo chose legal warfare. Within months after Power World releasing, they file a patent infringement suit on Pocket Pair. The mad part is they filed those patents we just talked about after Power World's success. They saw what worked, watched to patent it, and then sued the people who actually dared to innovate. Awful.
I mean, in fairness, right? On Nintendo's side, it does look very reminiscent to Pokemon. But the characters are not exact rip-offs. You can't turn around and say that, oh, because I've made a game that's similar to yours, that you can then slap a patent on it and then you can't play it, you can't use it, you can't make it. That's just ridiculous. Just because, like I said before, Nintendo missed a trick. So if they missed a trick, that's on them. People were screaming out for these extra things in games, and somebody else had the balls to make it. And because Nintendo don't like it, and it's costing them money now, they've seen how the success of another game franchise is taking off, they're throwing the toys out the pram.
Behavior. The result is Pocket Pair's been forced to gut core features from the game. They removed the ball throwing mechanic, which by the way is another Nintendo patent filed after Palworld launched. They had
Well, if you're throwing balls, Pokemon balls, I mean, come on. If you are throwing Pokemon balls and it's capturing creatures, then that is just direct rip-off of Pokemon. But to have creatures fighting with you is nothing new. It's not Pokemon specific. Like I say, there's many an RPG game where you can have like people fighting alongside you or animals fighting alongside you. It's ridiculous, this.
Redesigned their game after launch because Nintendo decided basic gameplay mechanics belong to them. That's not protecting IP. This is crushing a threat through intimidation.
Yeah,
the
definitely.
saddest part is this isn't new behavior. It's systematic. Back in 2018, Nintendo went after a Japanese studio called Colopal over their virtual joystick controls. A 5-year legal battle ended with them having to pay 3.3 billion yen to Nintendo. That's over $30 million for letting players drag anywhere on the screen to move their character, using a virtual touchscreen joystick, because apparently Nintendo have patented that too. Think about how mental that is. Every mobile game with movement controls, which is basically every mobile game, was suddenly in Nintendo's crosshairs. They basically patented the concept of moving, like they'd invented touching a screen. It blows my mind. But they didn't just go after commercial studios. Nintendo have nuked hundreds of player-made games, mods, and everything in between. A DMCA blitz for anyone who even dares go near anything even remotely similar to a Nintendo game. Projects like AM2R and Pokemon Uranium, games that people...
Because that looks a bit like Zelda. But again, the overhead view game is still nothing new, is it? Jesus Christ.
Years making because Nintendo just wouldn't. These weren't competing products, they were love letters. And Nintendo's response to that was legal annihilation. We're looking
You should be happy that people are paying homage to the games that you've created in the past by making similar sorts of games. I mean, there was a game on the Sega Master System that was out at the same time as Zelda called Golvelius, and you did all this sort of stuff overhead view like you did on Zelda, but no one got sued there, did they? You know what I mean? It's
years
ridiculous.
Of the same pattern. Nintendo sees innovation in their space and responds with lawsuits instead of responding with better games. They've been systematically bulldozing anyone who dares to do what they refuse to do. At this rate, they'll probably patent jumping next. The message to developers is crystal clear. No innovation even remotely near Nintendo's IP.
They couldn't do anything with jumping because going back as far as the Atari and games like Pitfall was the revolution for making platform games what they are today. You know, games like that where they started, and that was Activision. That wasn't Nintendo. I'm just going off one specific there, you know, because I know a lot about the older games because I used to have an Atari and stuff myself, and that's one of the first consoles that came out after the Pong things. But, you know, you can't patent things like that, running, jumping over. You know, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
They don't just own Mario's face anymore. They want to own the concept of moving left and right. It's crazy.
Yeah, that's stupid.
The real damage, though, is developers are self-censoring before they even start prototyping. Right now, there's an indie team somewhere out there scrapping their companion combat system because they can't afford to find out if it's too close to Nintendo's patents.
But then again, you're fighting mechanics in Legend of Zelda where you're swinging a sword. Could be 100 million different games like Nightmare Creatures or Tenchu, or you know, anything that where you swing a weapon. Soul Reaver. You know, the list goes on. Maybe Breath of the Wild took inspiration from Soul Reaver because some of the graphics are the same. Or about Shadow of the Colossus and games of that sort. You know what I mean?
Studio just redesigned their mount traversal because the legal risk isn't worth it. And this will be happening every day. Spreadsheet risk analysis has replaced game design. Instead of asking, will this be fun, developers are asking, will this bankrupt us? The most experimental spaces where new genres emerge are just going to go quiet because innovation near Nintendo's patents feels like playing with explosives. Just think about the mechanics that could just disappear. Summons, mounts, companion combat. These aren't Nintendo innovations. They're gaming fundamentals.
Exactly.
That have evolved across dozens of titles.
The ball to catch things, I get. It's a Pokemon ripoff. But summoning things, like I said before, that's you can't patent that. It's let's patent a driving game because your car drives like ours.
Nintendo innovations, they're gaming fundamentals that have evolved across dozens of titles, practically every genre over decades. The power imbalance is massive. The big studios can afford to fight these legal fights, but indies can't. So the people pushing the boundaries, the ones creating genuinely new ideas, they're the ones getting sued out of existence. Meanwhile, safe AAA sequels march on unchanged. And we feel it. Fewer weird systems, fewer risks, games designed by lawyers instead of designers. The creativity that actually keeps video game innovation alive gets...
That is what is going to crush, like I say, games being good in the future. Because like, people are not free to make what they want to make during a game. Do you know what I mean? During the process of making a game, should I say? And the consumer wants a good game. Oh, this game would be good if you could do that. Yeah, but we can't do that because Nintendo said we can't. You know what I mean? And it's ridiculous.
Instead of designers, the creativity that actually keeps video game innovation alive gets suffocated under a pile of patent applications and lawsuit threats. It's no longer competition, it's complete control. So let's call it what it is. It's not passive defense of intellectual property. It's an act of aggression designed to control who gets to make what kind of games. Nintendo watches a tiny studio succeed with a mechanic they've ignored for decades, and their response is to rush to patent those exact mechanics, then sue. The timing isn't a coincidence.
If they've patented I can't say it. If they've patented it, why can't I say patented? I said it right, didn't I? If they have patented it after the other game has already been made, then it should go from the date that they patented it. You can't go backwards. Surely you can't go backwards. There's got to be some protection for people who create games before they put the patent on it. Do you know what I mean?
It's a strategy. See what works, file a patent, then use that patent as a weapon against anyone who dares innovate in your space. Think about it like this. Valve created Steam, but they didn't patent digital game distribution. Epic made Unreal Engine available to all developers. Even EA, bloody EA, competes with better games, not better lawyers. When Apex Legends exploded, did they sue the Battle Royale genre out of existence? Of course they didn't. No. They made their game better. And when I'm praising the likes of EA, you know something is seriously wrong. But Nintendo, they've turned IP law into a literal siege engine, filing patents on basic mechanics. Wait for someone to use them, sue them. Most indies can't afford that fight, so they fold. The ones who can afford it get bled dry in court for years. Either way, Nintendo wins without having to actually innovate anything. You don't have to beat your competitors when you can make competing too expensive and too risky to even try. If you own the rule book, then everyone else plays by your rules or doesn't play at all. This is where we're heading now. Fewer studios willing to take risks because the penalties are too high. More of the same bland, committee-designed games because innovation has become a huge liability.
And I have noticed
what Nintendo's really protecting, it's not their characters, it's not their innovation.
I have noticed that games were, when I say better, I don't mean better graphically or better gameplay, blah, blah, blah. I mean, they were better when a new game would come out for your Sega or your Nintendo SNES. And they'd come out and they were, you know, there was so many different versions of different types of games that no one give a shit about. And nowadays, I feel like a lot of games are massively repetitive. Do you know what I mean? And that's probably, I didn't know it was probably down to this sort of lawyer shit from Nintendo, where they are taking people down for being creative because something looks similar to theirs. Jesus Christ.
They figured out that you don't need to make better games when you could make making games too dangerous for anyone else to try.
As an example, to me, Mario Kart 8 is better than the new Mario Kart World. And it is. Because I know it's the same company and Nintendo's flexing their muscles, but because they've painted everything themselves, they can't really do much more with Mario Kart. But the tracks just ain't as good. People are running out of ideas, and if they're good, and if Nintendo's going to crush everyone's ideas by doing this, then games are just going to get more boring.
So when you see a studio taking real creative risks, building something weird, something experimental, something that pushes against the established order, support them, because those risks are bigger than you think. They're not just risking failure anymore, they're risking everything. As always, thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please make sure to like, comment and subscribe to support the channel. It all helps massively. Thanks again. I'll see you in the next one. Nintendo.
Everyone go and support Veteran Joystick if you like that video. I think that was a very, very informative video about how Nintendo are throwing their toys out of the pram because someone's made one game that's very similar to theirs. But then again, I'm saying this is nothing new. I remember a thing in the 90s. It might even been the 80s. No, end of the 80s, early 90s, where there was a game on the Commodore Amiga called The Great Giana Sisters, and when you look at it, it does look very, very similar to Super Mario Bros. The first one. So going back to the late 80s, early 90s, Nintendo was still doing this, and I didn't realize that they were still doing it today, because I thought, you know, if someone makes a game, as long as you're not directly pinching their characters, like putting Mario into a different game, then everything should be free reign. You can't patent a jump or a control system. It's ridiculous. It's a stupid thing. And Nintendo, you know, they might end up with a lot of haters because of this. And you never know if they ever go out of business, you know, all the games will get better on other consoles. Because like he's saying there with the Halo and stuff like that, no one cared about the open world combat across networks, like Unreal and all that, when it first all started. No one said, oh, you can't play this, you can't do this, you can't make that game, you can't make this game. But Nintendo seem to be whiny little bitches. God, man, that makes me angry, that watching and reading some of that. That makes me angry, and like it makes me want to get rid of my Switch. Anyway, what did you guys think of this reaction? Let me know in the comments. Don't forget to check out Veteran Joystick's original video, and I'll see you all next time.